With the new Fnaf game Secret of the Mimic out, I thought a ranking of all Fnaf games would be cool, including Secret of the Mimic, by the way. Also, no spoilers for the new game, as it's very new. Yes, this counts the spin offs. If the FNAF game's at a low spot, it just means I liked it less than the higher spots. Almost every FNAF game is good, except for maybe the last, five. I didn't really want to count the Troll game or Sit and Survive, but I have Freddy in Space 2 on the list, so I might as well. This also includes all DLCs, spin offs, and Fazbear Fanverse games. I haven't played every FNAF game either. I've played a good amount, around 9, but some games are only exclusive on consoles. I don't have VR or computers. So if it's not on mobile or Security Breach or DLC or a specific short game, I haven't played it. Without further ado, here's my ranking of all the FNAF games. At number 30, to no one's surprise, is Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. This maybe might come as a shock to you, but there really is no bigger flop in the FNAF franchise than this game. It could be compared to Hello Neighbor, where the scope is much bigger than its budget, a confusing story, and it's $30, as well as being very glitchy. The entire game would have been solved if Gregory asked the security guard to leave, or if he left early. Or if he just chilled in Freddy's room for the night and then left. The game also doesn't explain much, and the map is almost barren. The game is hard to figure out where to go, so the map does not help. The game is also rushed, and the main villain, Vanny, only appeared for 3 minutes in the game. Interesting how she's basically the biggest thing on the poster. It's not required, but there's no final boss. I guess a secret final boss that is really easy and underwhelming. Except that if you don't know how the hell to deal with Broken Roxy or whatever she's called. The reason people say to stop bringing Purple Guy back is because of this boss fight. And the endings are made with a 4% budget each, either being really short or just being a comic. Overall, it's mid at best, but the game's horror glitches, story, menu, endings, villains, and map suck. And at least with Hello Neighbor, I was playing the mobile port, which is $14 cheaper, or $16 cheaper. I thought I was just saying that it was $14 a cost. There should be a playtester directly from Steam to test if the game is good enough to be $30, because this is not it. Next is Five Nights at Freddy's Survival Crew, number 29. I completed this entire ranking 4 days ago. Well, actually more like 7 now, but I haven't made this video for a bit. And just remembered the next 2 games. And the entire Fazbear initiative that I should probably add on there. This game is just Dead by Daylight, but the graphics are shittier and there's many glitches. One major difference is that survivors defeated by the animatronics are turned into animatronics, making the night more chaotic the later you are into the game. For some reason, surviving the night isn't how the survivors win. They just have to collect batteries, place them in some charger beam gun, and shoot a major electric beam into animatronics. I'm not positive because I never got to play this game because it was removed 2 hours after its release. But anyway, there was stolen art, expensive microtransactions, and a battle pass in the demo, meaning you lose all your progress when the main game comes out. The game was so bad, Scott Cawthon had to come out and say, "I accidentally approved the game being made." It's interesting how he retired from working on FNAF only a few months after. The game is a bit worse than Security Breach, but you don't necessarily have to spend $30 on it. Next is the 5 Laps at Freddy's demo, and technically its second version didn't change much, at number 28. I completely forgot about this game's existence until 10 minutes ago. I've only played FNAF 1 to Security Breach, so I'm just going to comment on what I see online. The game overall has okay graphics, a little better than the FNAF world. The font they use for your placement and the time is literally the basic font I use on Flip a Clip called Afara Bold. It's even in the thumbnail, so you can check that. The power-ups are derivative from other racers. The sinkhole is very hard to get through without getting lost or clipping out of bounds. And Midnight Motorist has a section where cars you have to dodge to be ahead go extremely fast. The game, for some reason, has no map. I think because it'd be too similar to Mario Kart. So you have 2 corners of your screen saying your placement and distance from the closest player. The reason it's better than Security Breach is that it's a free demo. An update dropped after I fully wrote this vid, and it still sucks. I believe they just added mimic Easter eggs and improved the controls. At number 27 is the FNAF 3 troll game. I mean, this game's pretty simple. It's nothing crazy. It's a troll game, so it's not like it's supposed to be a good game. It's pretty much a troll runner game, but the runner is Scott Cawthon's icon with Freddy's face. And the graphics, I mean, they don't look that good, I guess. It's not insane or anything, but it's like a short, maybe fun time. I don't really know. It seems like it's about like 5 minutes long. 1 minute if you didn't really care about playing it entirely. At number 26 is Five Nights at Freddy's Special Delivery. This game sucks. It's better than Security Breach as it's free. It's better than FNAF 3's Troll game as it has better graphics, but the game isn't anything special or anything. The gameplay is boring as shit, where you just spin around and try to find the animatronic, or whatever. You unlock the animatronics at different times, but they all work pretty similar except for the last few. At number 25 is Sin Survive / Sister Location Troll game. This game is pretty okay. This is a game that somewhat inspired FNAF as it has survival mechanics, which it didn't invent. You pretty much just buy stuff to heal, drink, or eat, then have to survive zombies, bats, tornadoes, acid rain, rabbits, lightning, ghosts, bears, snakes, and meteors. Get coins from that, then the day passes, which you add to your score, but it makes it harder. It's a pretty basic survival game, and technically, this game doesn't... The only thing this game adds is the Freddy mask. This game already exists, so... I mean, as it is, it's a cool Freddy mask, so... At number 24 is Pop Goes Arcade. This is a third-person arcade game, meaning you play outside the arcade cabinet. In all of these, it's used for a jump scare. The game has bad graphics, basically, just being the FNAF 3 minigame art style. The gameplay is okay, being an RPG with a small shop, collectibles, and yeah. It's pretty basic. The jump scare at the end of the secret ending is pretty well done, with a hand coming out of the screen very quickly. Not a regular jump scare, but still scary. If you're wondering, for all of these, I'm going to be using this image, just because there's 5 of these. I counted all of the arcade games, because the third and maybe DLC is there. So yeah. At number 23 is Freddy in Space 3, Chica in Space. I barely even knew this game existed. I saw the intro to the game where Scott tells the player he might show a teaser for FNAF lore. It's kind of just Freddy in Space 2, which is a Mega Man clone, but in space. But instead of 4 worlds, it's 4 with 2 levels, but they're probably shorter, I think. The game is generally just worse, like the boss designs. There's an idea that FNAF games have been going in a more kid-friendly direction, but after the release of Into the Pit, they've changed to a bit scarier route. This game was pretty much more FNAF to hype up the movie a bit. I think I forgot about this game, so this isn't written down at all. But this game's pretty cool. I mean, it's not like anything amazing. It's just a cool game. I like the graphics. The gameplay is pretty good. I like how there's a secret final boss and a regular final boss. Yeah, I mean, it's cool that to fully complete the game, there's a hard mode. It's a lot of effort that they probably should have been putting to Security Breach than just a filler game in between that and, I don't know, it was VR before. Next is Freddy in Space 2 at number 22. If you're wondering why this is only a little bit better than the last, I mean, I'll explain. A sequel to the 5-minute FNAF World minigame, Freddy in Space. However, this game is a much more refined version with an actual story, multipath, and more than one boss. It essentially works like Mega Man, being a platformer shooter with some difficulty. The game has a really cool art style that improves upon the first one a lot. Overall, a cool game. It's still pretty similar to Chica in Space, being pretty basic, but at least the graphics are better. At number 21 is Pop Goes Arcade 2. More of the same as the original. You play an RPG minigame that get jump scared at the end. The RPG aspect is visually is much better. The story is a bit more interesting, as in the original, you just wanted to take back the world from evil people. But in the sequel, a virus has spread from the final boss, and you must defeat them to complete the game. The game has random encounters, exponential difficulty. You have 3 choices each turn in the battle instead of 2. 5 worlds, and the NPCs will ask you lore-based questions for cash, but only on the first 3 games lore. There's a normal ending and a secret ending, where you get jump scared by Springtrap, which is very in your face. The FNAF 3 jump scare sound sucks, and the jump scare is less interesting as it's less new. Overall better, I guess. Next is Pop Goes and the Machinist at number 20. This isn't really a huge DLC. It adds some additional stuff to the original Pop Goes arcade, or Pop Goes the Dead Forest. Pop Goes Arcade is much better than the last, but the DLC doesn't bring much to the table. I think all it adds is the ability to talk to defeated enemies, an almanac of sorts, new story campaign, new enemies, and new abilities. If you're wondering what I mean by Pop Goes Arcade being the third one, the one I'm talking about, it's because it kind of is. I see it as the name a lot, but I think it's called Pop Goes in the Dead Forest. At number 19 is Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2. This game is alright on its own, but it's the sequel to a highly beloved game, which was the first FNAF game to use VR. The VR craze wore off pretty much when that game came out. This game has nothing as interesting as the first game lore-wise. The minigames are pretty easy, and almost all of them are based on Security Breach, which, if you don't know, is my least favorite game in the series. At number 18 is My Pop Goes. This game is more of a minigame, being about 50 minutes long. It's like a pet simulator where you maintain a tiny Pop Goes by moving it around, giving food, water, and music to maintain its thirst, hunger, and sanity. Each night has faster resource depletion, and the nights get longer. There are some skins for the main area, and that's about it. A short game to fill the long gap between Pop Goes and its sequel that's not out yet. Although I will say, this game has, probably the best graphics out of any FNAF game. From what I remember, it's like a claymation design. That's very cool. That's something I would see in Yoshi's Crafted World. And that's like a Nintendo game that has a much higher budget than any FNAF game. Number 17, FNAF World. This game was said by Scott Cawthon to be a cash grab because he was forming an ego, along with it still being the first family-friendly vanilla basic FNAF game. Overall, it's an okay RPG. I like the finale teasing FNAF 5, but it contrasts with the general cutesy feel of the rest of the game. I like the main mechanic of it not being turn-based, but the DLC is way better, so that's higher up. Next is Pop Goes the Dead Forest at number 16. This is easily the best of the Pop Goes arcade series. The graphics are much better than the second, having more detail, being second best to the main FNAF game, Into the Pit. The shop is much larger. Instead of 3 items, it's 10, and the battles being better with UI showing the health of you and your enemy simpler than the others. Like the others, there's a normal and secret. The secret ending, instead of just showing you a jump scare, just pans out, then you see Pop Goes walk out and look at the camera. Possibly teasing another game, but I'm not holding out hope. The original came out in 2016 or 2017, and they have not made an actual sequel. They always get canceled. At number 15 is the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 Halloween DLC. I'm pretty sure all they added to FNAF 4 was cheats, challenges, and reskins to the extras. I like giving more characters throughout the game's nightmare designs. I also find it funny that every other character got a reskin except Freddy, the MC of the entire franchise. The main character, that's just how you abbreviate it. At number 14 is Five Nights at Freddy's sister location, Custom Night. This is pretty cool. FNAF 5 has an interesting story, but no real gameplay, so making FNAF 5 have actual gameplay. Better yet, an actual custom night, as the original game only had 5 nights and a secret ending. The 5th game, technically. The mechanics are kinda cool, and the 1050 mode looks ridiculously hard. Apparently as difficult as FNAF 2's 1050 mode. The secret ending for beating it is almost as good as the FNAF 6 ending, where it turns out you're Michael Afton looking for your father, Purple Guy, aka Springtrap, setting up the sequel. The only reason this is this low is because there's descriptions on how to deal with every animatronic, like ruining the mystery entirely, which is basically how horror works in the FNAF universe. At number 13 is the FNAF World Halloween Edition. This is a pretty cool game that heavily buffed the original game, introduced a new world, new minigames, new final boss, 8 new characters, 9 new attacks. There's some more comedy than the original, although nothing I would find particularly funny. I probably would have forgotten about FNAF if not for this DLC, for it added a bunch of fun updates, like making the final boss an annoying rainbow they have to defeat on a timer, instead of a robot or the devs icon. I think I looked it up, it depends on the difficulty. At number 12 is Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit. Into the Pit is a very good game that definitely feels like FNAF was getting good again. It feels different from other FNAF games, as it's a 2D multi-ending stealth puzzle horror game. If you read that story, like me, which I'm pretty sure is the only FNAF story in the books to have a good ending, you know where the story is going, but a majority is completely new, where you just have to investigate around and survive a twisted nightmare version of Springtrap trying to save your dad. I like that the hiding spots had mini games where whether you survive or not, like they depend whether you survive or not. However, this game doesn't matter. I wouldn't be surprised if this game never gets mentioned in future FNAF games. The lore is really simple too, similar to FNAF the R2, but a lot scarier and grounded. At number 11 is Five Nights at Freddy's Ultimate Custom Night. This game is really cool as a somewhat finale to the main FNAF series, but they made a soft reboot, then a boring rush glitchy mess, then a sequel to the soft reboot for no real reason, and so on. The game is cool with its challenges and its 50 different mechanics, although most of them are pretty basic, and the jump scares are pretty basic, but the game doesn't have much replayability after a bit, and the jump scares suck. The two secrets were surprisingly easy to unlock, unlike most secrets in the FNAF games. And the 50-50 mode seems like the hardest mode in all of FNAF. Like, I genuinely don't know what would be harder. The cutscenes were cool as well, but didn't really add anything interesting to the game. The voice lines were also cool, I guess. I like the idea of 50 different animatronics, but they didn't, do it super well. The game does not have, the space for 50. Well, that's why the jump scares suck and the mechanics are so simple. At number 10 is Five Nights at Freddy's 3. This game is one of my favorites in the FNAF game franchise. I love the concept of there only being one real animatronic who is harder, and there's no doors. Technically, the second game had no doors, but the flashlight was more of an easier defense to use in audio, so I'm going to count this one as the only one without door. However, this is by far the easiest FNAF game to 100%, as I have, and I couldn't do that for any of them. Springtrap as a character has a great design and great lore too. Too bad they butchered him and his reoccurrences pretty much after VR. The gameplay isn't perfect. You just use the cameras to shut vents or audio distract Springtrap, but every now and then you have to reboot some stuff, but there's 7 annoying phantoms that make the game a bit harder. And they make it much more annoying. That's probably why it's not in, number 5 or something. At number 9 is Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach Ruin. I'm a bit iffy on if this game should go before or after FNAF Help Wanted its DLC, but decided to put this before. While the game is longer, the DLC has much more variety of gameplay, plus it makes everything scarier. The game follows Cassie, Gregory's friend, who needs to save him from the bottom of the now-abandoned Pizzaplex. Don't ask when this game takes place, as Gregory sounds the same, but the Pizzaplex went from fully functional to completely abandoned. You go through cool cutscenes and stealth minigames, have to deactivate Withered Roxy, who becomes your friend right before, and eventually find out that the voice wasn't Gregory, but an evil robot endoskeleton to mimic voices. The real Gregory somehow communicates with you. This is also the introduction of the Mimic, who kind of takes Purple Guy's place as the main threat, You almost die from the Mimic, but Roxy somehow saves you, even though you deactivated her like 5 minutes before. You barely get into an elevator where the real Gregory says you have to die, so you can't be tracked. Really stupid ending, as how would you be tracked, and how does he have access to elevators? I don't think this is the real Gregory, as why would the MC of the main game want to kill your character instead of reasoning? Plus, I probably should mention, the Gregory's a robot theory is kinda dumb, but I kinda believe it because of this game. 30 years have passed since the last one, since Normal Security Breach, like, obviously. But you're the same age? No. No, you're a robot. At number 8 is Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted Curse of Dreadbear. So I've never actually seen this DLC, as I already knew the big stuff in it, like Fnaf World. It introduces a new Halloween world, there's a few mini-games, a recreation of my least favorite minigame being spotting plush babies in the dark. They remake the Funtime Foxy minigame, which was a pretty cool section of FNAF 5, going through a dark hallway, stopping when necessary. Then you go through a reskin FNAF 1 night, but your doors don't work, so you have to flash animatronics in the eyes to ward them away, but that costs some power, so you have to shut off your power to get battery. Target games, navigating a dark haunted corn maze to find a key to a gate and hiding spots with Grim Foxy in it, rebuilding Mangle's body with Freddy's making it Freddles making it harder, trick-or-treating horror minigame where you need to disguise yourself as given animatronic, creating Dreadbeard Man using electricity and color mechanics. The main ending being a cheap jump scare, but with a secret ending in the Grim Foxy minigame that teases Fanny, which makes it so it kind of seemed like Secret Breach would be way cooler than it was. If you're wondering why this is, before the main FNAF Help Wanted, it's because it's much longer and has more lore. FNAF Help Wanted specifically. At number 7 is Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location. This game is a great experience. Its main pro is its story. The gameplay is a bit rare and different every time, but I guess it's fine. Circus Baby is also the first FNAF character to talk to you and manipulate you through a majority of the game, with the reveal that it's Purple Guy's daughter who wants to scoop out your insides to wear your body as a costume in an amalgamation of all the bunker animatronics. There's a secret good ending too, where you survive only to die in your own home. There's some good comedy from Micro the AI. The game is really easy until you get to night 4. The replayability sucks. Like, you can play this game once, possibly twice if you haven't played it in a few years. But I can already tell you I'm probably never playing this game again, if you're wondering. Next is One Night at Flumpty's 3 at number 6, but I forgot to rank it, so it's kind of number 7 too. This is probably my favorite FNAF game, gameplay-wise. The main night is where you use flashes against enemies and warm up by a fire. But Flash is limited, making strategy on when to shoot. The second night is by far the best, where they introduce the final boss, Flumpty, and that takes place of all the enemies, and you find out they're all murdered a bit before he comes out. I definitely had a creepy feel to him being there. And he uses clones instead of just, like, doing all the tasks just faster. Later on, there's new game mechanics, new rooms, and the music changes from a creepy song to a fun song. Third night is similar to FNAF 4. First 4 hours is the same. Last 2 is the Flumpty boss, which I will say is probably my favorite final boss in the series. Its only competition is FNAF 5's final boss, which is pretty good, that's why it's right next to it, and FNAF 4's final boss, which is, I mean, it's cool visually. A very good conclusion to the One Night of Flumpty's franchise, and hopefully the last, but honestly, I don't know. At number 5 is Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. The best VR experience in all of FNAF. Since VR was very new back in 2019, the experience is terrifying as the robots hulk over and you actually feel like you're there. Remember my best friend had a VR set, and I quit after 25 seconds trying it out? The game starts out saying that every piece of lore may or may not be a lie made by a troll dev, along with teasing Vanny, who is manipulated by a dark entity which turned to be Glitchtrap, Purple Guy's soul digitized somehow. You play through the first 4 games on a hub with some differences, along with a plush trap section,
called Dark Rooms, a parts and service section, and a mangle/ennard in the vents section called Vent Repair. This game is very good with the amount of content, however the two endings suck. In the normal ending, you get murdered, and in the trapped ending, you get trapped for eternity while Glitchtrap steals your body. Both of these endings feel like a would you rather question. Would you rather get murdered or be trapped for eternity? The secret mask ending doesn't count as that's only for the DLC. Good game overall. At number 4 is Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. If I make a bunch of mistakes, the reason why is because these texts are pretty long and it's hard to just re-record them every time I make a mistake, like I do for the others. This game is a fun change of pace from the other FNAF games, being what the title says. The first part of every day is managing a pizzeria, aka a simulator, and this can affect other parts of the day/night. Afterward, you go through a maintenance segment where you have to pay close attention to an animatronic, as they can move once or twice when you're reviewing their reaction to audio. Then you go through a ventilation night watch, but have to complete tasks to leave, not just wait. The 4 animatronics aren't bad as ideas for the most part. Scrap Baby is a cool design for Circus Baby. Lefty brings back a character from 4 games ago, technically 2 if you count the DLC, as it's secretly the puppet trapped in a suit concocted by Henry. William Afton returning is a somewhat okay idea, as he's the main villain of the franchise and hasn't appeared for 2 years. Scott Freddy has the stupidest idea ever. So to make 4 animatronics, Scott made Ennard into 2 parts as they broke up for unknown reason. This is just a waste of creativity, as that will never be answered. And Scraptrap's design also fucking sucks. Why would Springtrap change bone structure and grow a massive forehead in 30 years? I like the voice lines after you die, and this is the second scariest FNAF game in the series due to hardly knowing the animatronics is coming. There's many endings, but the true ending is by far the best, where it's revealed that the audio guy was Henry, and he's gonna stop everything, stop it all once and for all. Don't laugh. As well as the double twist. You're Michael Afton and die with the others, as you were already dead anyway. I wish the series ended here, as it was the perfect ending to the series, even if the next few games after this have been very good. Somewhat. Also, this game is the best lore-wise, having great secrets and hidden Easter eggs. At number 3, technically 4, is Five Nights at Freddy's The Final Chapter. FNAF 4 is the scariest game in the franchise and has the best lore. Like how you have to move around to stop the 4 nightmares from entering your bedroom. Somewhat like FNAF 6, there is 3 segments every night: the main survival, fun time with Plush Trap, and Crying Child minigames. The main survival is great, where you're using audio to check if an animatronic is at the door, which will end up with a jump scare you'll have to closely listen to is crazy, as with the other FNAF games you can shut off the volume, but not for this game. The fun time with Plush Trap section is pretty cool, though very hard, as you have to listen for every movement from Plush Trap in order to flash your light at the right time. The Crying Child segments are kind of weak until the end. It turns out you died by being forced in Fredbear's mouth from your brother Michael, and your head was crushed. At an earlier time, it turns out this was the bite of 83. Interesting how the phone guy mentioned bite of 87, but not 83. Rusted TV was playing an old episode. Anyway, this kind of explains the hospital equipment Easter eggs and why you're dealing with nightmares. You're in a coma. This is the first FNAF game to have a final boss, which is pretty fire, as it's a good twist, and even comes back as a hard mode in the final night. The twist mainly is visually, but it's a little harder. Well, the 2 final nights, Nightmare and 520 mode. Also, the secret ending is insanely good, showing a box of 2 keys and saying
until the end of FNAF, as I'm assuming what's inside the box reveals the final piece of the puzzle to the long, complex FNAF lore. At number 3 is Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. I won't go too depth in this game as it just came out, so no spoilers or anything. This game is like Security Breach, but toned down. Actual gameplay, actual horror, with a smaller scope, but pretty similar length. The game is somewhat separated from all FNAF lore, and instead focuses on a new story being the Murray family, so it doesn't feel very bloated. I really like the Secret of the Mimic being a great twist to the Mimic story. I'm not positive if I'll continue liking it more than FNAF 4, as I usually like things more in release. A lot of people say this game is similar to Poppy Playtime, and that's true. It's a 3D animated puzzle horror game about exploring a haunted factory with a dark gray skeleton monster and many chase scenes. Although Poppy Playtime doesn't have you go against a giant robot spider piano monster, just a fragile small piano dinosaur. I don't really get the secret ending, but someone will figure it out. By the way, the fact that a FNAF game has a secret ending isn't really a spoiler anymore, if you're wondering. At least 60% have one at this point. At number 2 is Five Nights at Freddy's. It's kinda obvious. The original Five Nights at Freddy's is very iconic, as it's a horror game with actual gameplay. That's pretty rare unless you're talking about console exclusive games. The ambience and dark office really add to the horror, although the main horror is the terrifying gameplay and visuals of its FNAF animatronics. I like how it's not obvious there's lore, but instead there's a possible way to read an article on the right hallway's back wall talking about murders and Goldie and Freddy, I guess. Which is cool because the lore is very subtle, which leaves it open to sequels if it was successful enough to get one. The original theories and hoaxes for this game were kinda dumb. The idea that the whole game is based on a real event, of 5 adults dying in a kitchen, is just absurd, or that there's a secret animatronic, which is just some dog named Sparky, that is rarer than Golden Freddy, or that Foxy's a good guy as he doesn't directly attack you in his jump scare. The idea that Foxy caused the bite of 87 is kinda credible, or the theory that you're the killer and you're in hell. That's possibly true, and FNAF 7 has that setting in the plot. I like the in-game Easter eggs, like milliseconds, like Bonnie or Freddy looking at you for a millisecond in a dark room, or having a custom night, which hasn't been a thing since 2018. If you know all the FNAF games, you probably know what's number 1. I realize this video is 33 minutes long, but anyway, without further ado, number 1 is Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the best FNAF game to date. Well, FNAF isn't known for having stellar sequels, for the most part. They hit a home run with this game. It improves on FNAF 1 while doubling the thread. Instead of having to deal with 4 animatronics and a secret enemy that crashes your game, you have to deal with 11 animatronics and 2 secret enemies that crash your game. And a possible nod to Sparky being a secret endoskeleton. The only caveat to this is that 7 animatronics work the same as the rest. They pop in the vents or hallway, and then you gotta put on the mask when they come inside, and they'll leave. The game is really chaotic after night 2, as you have to maintain your flashlight to stop Withered Foxy, counter animatronic with your mask, and rewind the puppet's music box. Loon Boy is everyone's least favorite in the franchise. Come on, Phantom Chica is right there. He has an okay design that reflects he isn't there to jump scare you, but steal your batteries so Withered Foxy can jump scare you. Along with Mangle, who you have to flash in 2 hallways and cannot let inside. But if you do, she'll just for 10 seconds, then kill you. Unlike Withered Foxy or the other 3 and their variants, there's some good lore in this game, like teasing Purple Guy for the first time as the serial killer who not only killed the 5 kids, but also killed a random child. I kind of have a theory Purple Guy and the puppet, well, not a random child. Later on, you figure out, it's Henry's daughter, but not at this point. I kind of have a theory Purple Guy and the puppet are the same character as they built the children back together, which was teased in FNAF 4 to be Purple Guy at the end. It's a bit of a stretch with not much proof, but it's possible. I don't know. FNAF is pretty crazy anyway. I also like that they kept FNAF 1's ambience that the game somewhat have kept, but not really. It's a bit iffy to which FNAF game is the best, FNAF 1 or FNAF 2, but as FNAF 2 is more chaotic and keeps the majority of FNAF 1's aesthetic, just improving upon it, I think it's better. And that is every FNAF game ranked. If I'm missing one, like the FNAF UCN troll game, or if that's a thing, and it's just like the fisherman or whatever his name is, dang it, but I generally don't know what the gameplay of that would be. That would make it interesting enough to rank here anyway, so... Well, that fed took a while. Not really from writing. Writing-wise, it took 15 days.
but this will probably take much longer to edit as I'll be using actual FNAF gameplay footage. I hope you enjoyed, have a good day, and remember, always come back, Scrub.